Hi friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. I'd like to offer up just a quick apology for not having published a bunch of YouTube videos over the last few weeks or so. We've been busy with some other priorities in our lives, and this just kind of ended up in second or third or fourth place during that period of time. But everything's on track. I'd like to thank the folks that have been in contact, urging me to get back on the air. So here I am. The thought this week, and what I've been kind of working on back and forth, is how to fail at being a prepper. So stick around. Okay, first up on the list is thinking how to fail is to think that nothing bad's ever going to happen, that you're not going to lose your job, that you're not going to lose a loved one, that everything's going to be just fine. You can call 911, the sheriff will be there, the police will be there, the fire department will be there, the ambulance will be there. And yeah, that's all well and good, but being prepared, being self-sufficient is really a key factor in being a prepper. You've got to think about stuff that can hit you on a personal basis, like I just mentioned, the loss of a loved one, a fire in your house, that kind of stuff, the loss of a job, your income changes dramatically, your wife loses her job or whatever, however it works out, your income is crippled in some fashion. And are you prepared for that? Local and regional kind of issues that can happen, hurricanes, floods, heavy snowstorms, tornadoes, that kind of stuff. Are you prepared for that? Do you have enough food and water to get you through what would normally be considered a short-term 3 to 7 day kind of an event based on a natural disaster, storms, floods, those kinds of things? But are you prepared for that? So thinking that nothing bad's ever going to happen, you just got to look around. On a national basis, you can have just about anything going on. The threats of war, economic meltdowns, an invasion, political insurrections, those kinds of things, very disruptive on a national basis. And are you prepared to weather a storm that could last weeks or even months if there's a national kind of a calamity that's going to hit? And then, of course, the whole global thing. I mean, if we got hit with a cosmic meteor storm, or the super volcano goes off in Yellowstone, or there's a nuclear attack, or, you know, we devolve into World War III. Do you have a plan? Do you have the resources to get you and your loved ones and your family, your friends, through that kind of a situation? And that one's tough. But I think the first way to fail is really to think nothing bad's ever going to happen, everything's going to be just fine, you'll always be able to get to the grocery store, you'll always be able to fill up your vehicle with gasoline, you never have to worry. So that's the first way to fail. Second way is not to have a plan. So, and it kind of goes along with the first one. If you think nothing bad's going to happen, then you don't need a plan. For if you don't think nothing's going to happen, you don't need a plan. But if you think that there might be a chance of a major snowstorm, the loss of a job, those kinds of things, then you need to have a plan. And in order to really have an effective plan, you've got to have actions attached to the thought for that plan. So when you put your plan together, you do your assessment, you find out where the weaknesses are in your own personal situations, where you need resources, where you need skills, where you need food and water inventories, where maybe it's your health, maybe it's physical, maybe you got to go see the doctor and the dentist, that kind of a thing. Is it a financial kind of a thing? Do you have a plan for that kind of stuff? So you do the assessment, you find out where you're weak, you give it some priorities, which is going to be most important depending on how you've defined what bad things may happen, and then put your plan together on how you're going to remedy that or mitigate that situation so that you can survive and your family can survive. And remember, a plan with no action is just simply an idea. So you've got to have an action to go with it. So a plan might look like this. I need to learn how to build a fire without using a lighter or a match. Well, do some research, look it up, go on the internet. There's got to be 500,000 YouTube videos on how to start a fire with a ferro rod, how to use friction to start a fire, using a magnifying glass. So research that stuff, try to put it together, learn, do, practice, and you'll have it. So you've got to have the action that goes with the idea. And once you do that, then you've got a plan. All right, the third way to fail is to rely on the latest prepper, gadget, tool, fad, you name it, they're out there. I get emails and advertisements all the time for the latest, newest, greatest, whatever it is, flashlight, knife, backpack, bug out bag, emergency food rations, you name it. But if you rely on that stuff, on those gadgets, on those tools, on those fads, that's all you're going to have is a gadget or a fad. If you don't know how to use it, if you don't take it to heart and really understand what it's for, how to use it, and how to properly purchase those kinds of things, then you're going to fall victim to the third failure in being a prepper, is relying on the gadgets, relying on the latest prepper fad. So don't do it. Number 4 on the list, at least in my book, in my opinion, is not understanding what your food and water storage inventories are and what they were going to cover. You've got to be able to identify what you've got, know where it is, know how to use it, and rotate your stock. And it doesn't matter if it's water or canned beans or rice or whatever that you've got. Make sure that you've got everything labeled, everything dated, and that you rotate things out. And to go along with that, and I've seen people fail with this one, is that they buy food that they normally don't eat. Now, we eat a lot of rice and beans and all that kind of stuff, and our bodies are acclimated to dealing with some of the digestive issues that can come along with a diet of rice and beans. So if that's what you've stockpiled is rice and beans, but you rarely ever eat rice and beans, then you're going to have some digestive issues to deal with. And believe me, they're no fun if you're not used to eating rice and beans. So just a word of warning on that one. The rotation of food stores, I think, is very, very important. There are tons of YouTube videos out there with warnings about stale dates and what the dates on certain kind of canned goods mean and packaged goods and all that. And pay attention to that kind of stuff. But when you look at a can of green beans and it says use by January 23rd, 2019, then my goodness, should you throw it away the day after that? I know people that do that, but those kind of canned goods, yeah, they may lose a little bit of nutritional value over time, but they'll still be good to eat. They'll still fill your tummy. It'll be just fine for a lot longer period than what that use-by date is. So pay attention to that. Rotate your stocks. When you buy new box of canned goods, rotate the old ones and use those up and keep the new ones on hand in your inventory. So it's kind of first in, first out kind of a thing. And that's the way it should be. So rotate your stock, make sure your water's clean and fresh and up to date, and that you've got a way to prepare that kind of stuff. If you've got to collect water from your roof to use as potable drinking water, you better have a way to filter it, sanitize it, and make sure that it's going to be safe to drink. So water filtration systems, iodine, bleach, all those kinds of things, that's part of the skill set assessment that you need to be doing. In the earlier stages of how to fail as a prepper, or how not to fail as a prepper, pay attention to that kind of stuff. Know how you're going to purify water. Know how to cook your food. So the power goes out, the power grid goes down, whatever. What do you got? An electric stove and a microwave? Neither one of them are going to work if there's no power. So either have an auxiliary source of power via a generator, or have an alternative source of cooking so that you can cook the food that you've got. Propane stoves, your backyard barbecue, the propane kind of stuff there, charcoal cookers, you name it, open fires, that kind of stuff. You got to be able to be prepared to cook the food that you've stockpiled when you don't have regular normal power. The fifth thing that popped into my head on how best to fail is stay in debt. Use your credit card. You can pay it off on minimum monthly payments. So go buy that $1,200 worth of 6 months of freeze-dried food and pay it off at $35 a month. Yeah, right. I read some statistics recently that said that I think 40% of the people, household families, don't have enough emergency fund to come up with $500 to pay for a minimum emergency. And that the average household with a credit card has an average of $15,000 in credit card debt. So stay in debt. Use that credit card all the time. Yeah, just charge it right up. And just use the monthly minimum payments to pay it off. And eventually, 100 years from now, maybe it'll get paid off. Don't do that or you will fail. You can't be prepared if you're in debt. Get yourself out of debt. Go watch Dave Ramsey, read his books, follow his plan. All good stuff. And a separate quick thought, an extra, the number 6 beyond the top 5. The number 6 is, and I'll credit Pastor Joe Fox for this one, don't get on the bus. You want to fail as being a prepper? Get on the bus. And that bus is the bus that's going to take you to the FEMA camp. It's the bus that's going to take you to the internment camp. When something does happen, you can bet there's going to be a certain section of the population, and I don't know who it's going to be, but it could be you, so don't get on the bus. This is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you to be prepared always, and I'll see you on the next video.